So this fellow's driving down the road. He's going 30 miles an hour or so, and something catches his eye out of his right side, and he looks over, and there's a chicken. It's right there, staying with his driving 30 miles an hour. He said, well, that's kind of odd. He sped up a little bit, and the chicken stayed right there. What the hell is that? He sped up a little bit more, and then he noticed, the chicken sped up. Chicken had 3 legs. I'll be damned, he said. And he started to speed up a little bit more, but that chicken took off out in front of him, crossed the road, and took off down an old dirt country road to a farmhouse out there in the middle of the fields. Well, he wanted to know what the heck that thing was, so he slowed down, he made the turn, followed the chicken. Chicken went up to an old ranch house. Out to the side underneath the barn was a chicken pen, and that chicken ran over there and jumped inside the pen. Well, the guy pulled up, and he got out of his car, and he scratched his head, and he thought, well, I'll be. Man came out of the ranch house. Can I help you? He said, yeah, I've been following that chicken. It's got 3 legs. And the owner of the ranch said, yeah, I raise 3-legged chickens. Huh. Why do you raise 3-legged chickens, might I ask? The rancher said, well, I like chicken leg. My wife likes chicken leg, and our son likes chicken leg. If I were to raise a normal chicken with only 2 legs, one of us would have to go without, and that just wouldn't be right. And the guy said, yeah, okay. So what do they taste like? And the rancher looked at him and said, well, yeah, that's a good question, because I haven't been able to catch one. Okay, bad joke.
I'm not heading for the stars, driving down the boulevard at night. Playing Coldplay on repeat, watching people on the street as I go by. And it doesn't even matter to me where
From the great American Southwest, deep in the heart of the Texas Hill Country near the mystical land of the Enchanted Rock, welcome to my little corner of the internet. I'm J.W. Spencer, and this is my Vision Quest.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open.
So last week about this time, we were just coming out of a deep freeze. We had gone 144 hours of below freezing weather. Matter of fact, I think for almost 2 days straight, the low temperature was 5 degrees for 2 nights. And we made it up to 15 during the day. Okay, it's gotten cold before in Texas. This is not a new event, right? The last time it was this cold for this long with this much precipitation was 1899, so 120 years or so. I can remember as a kid, heck, in January, a month ago, it snowed 3 inches. And the next day, it was 80 degrees and the snow melted. That's Texas weather. Texas weather's drunk. In the middle of all this stuff, it got down. I went 40 hours without power in our house. Fun. I got down to about 40 degrees inside the house. We don't have a fire, but our winters are very mild. And our homes here in Texas generally do not need a fireplace. Most people don't have fireplaces. And very few people here in the hill country have basements because of artesian springs. If you build a basement, there's a propensity for the ground to just start, filling with water without notice. And then in the summer, when it's 115 degrees and under a drought, you might go 120 days without rain, the soil shrinks, and it's very hard to build or very expensive to have any type of subterranean foundation like that. I had to take my wife to the hospital over ice and snow. On my way home, I wasn't able to make it up the the road to our house the first time. When I went back and picked her up about 8 hours later, she's from Oregon. She kind of guided me on how to drive on ice and snow, and made it up that time. I was able to park the car, but yeah, I don't drive on ice and snow, and you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So, why tempt fate? I am grateful Department of Transportation here in Texas put sand on some of the slopes that are lead up to the emergency room, and I was able to get her there. I mean, I drove 10, 15 miles an hour. I broke every speed law on the planet. Nobody was on the roads when I went and took her, and nobody was on the roads when I picked her up. There were red lights, and I did not obey them. There were stop signs, and I did not obey them. There were speed limit signs, and I was well under the speed limit. I tried as best I could, and I drove where I followed the tracks of other vehicles that had cleared the ice in places. I figured that would be better than driving over the ice, and what that meant that I was straddling lanes of traffic, and normally you would get a ticket, failure to control your vehicle, but I think in this special extenuating circumstance, I had a choice. I could call an ambulance, I could call a stepdaughter who has a 4-wheel drive truck, or I could go. My first option I called my stepdaughter who lives just a few miles away. They have a 4x4 pickup truck, and it was diesel, and her fiance did not plug in the block heater. When you have a diesel truck, and if you have a block heater for cold weather, you plug it in to keep the engine warm so it starts in cold weather. And if you don't do that, your engine will not start because the glow plugs can only do so much. You need to warm the engine. Oil needs to be warmed and everything. So just word to the wise, if you have a diesel engine, just plug it in. They had power, so it wouldn't have been an issue for them. I had no power. Anyhow, they couldn't get it started, and I said, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. My other option was to call 911, but, get an ambulance here. But I figured, Traci was in pain. I guess the whole stress of the situation, 40 degrees in the house, and lack of power for a full day. We went nearly 40 hours without power. So we were over 24 hours without power at this point, and it was getting cold in the house. I took her to the emergency room and dropped her off. I went in with her and made sure, she checked in and everything. I couldn't go because of COVID. You can't go back there. So I came home, bundled up, got layers on the bed, put one dog on this leg and one dog on that leg, trying to stay warm, and I was shivering. Did not work. Not as well as I had hoped. About 8 hours later, Traci called from the hospital, and they were discharging her. She got evaluated. She got the medicines she needed to calm down her system. She got warm. And right about that time, coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. The power came on. And with the power came on, the heat came on. By the time I got Traci home, I drove over ice again, picked her up. She helped me navigate home successfully. Got into the house, and we were at 55. We got back into bed. By the time we woke up in the morning, it was actually 65 in the house, and I had the temperature set to 68, which is, I was thinking about making it, 65 to 66. There were other people who need power and needed natural gas, so I turned it down a little bit to 66. And that's where we stayed for the next 2 days at 66. And I think we went through, at that time we were in the rolling blackout, a couple hours on, a couple hours off, a couple hours on, a couple hours off, but it was manageable. Did the old, open up the cupboards, we have one pipe that's on an exposed wall. I am fortunate, though, that my builder, when they built our home, they used real rock. I have rock on the sides of our home, and that rock is like You know, I mean, it's real thick rock, good insulating material. Our pipes did not freeze. Our pipes did not bust. I'm knocking on wood. And we survived. Neighbor across the road, their pipes burst. Neighbor to the left of us, their tree fell, took out their fence. Neighbor to the right of us, their tree fell, took out the fence. One thing I will say about Texas, you know, when your tree falls, I think the guy on the left, he has like 4 teenagers living with him. They had that tree cut, bundled in their truck, taken away, and they had the fence repaired within a half hour. The lady on the left or right, I went over and talked to her and you know, let her know, hey, you know, look on the bright side. It didn't fall towards your house. It fell towards your fence. It took out your fence. So I just want to let you know, I didn't know what she had plans for, but you know, she went out there and started chopping trees, and within 15, 20 minutes, she had about 4 neighbors out there helping her chop her tree down and get it situated. And I think she finally got it squared away this past weekend. That's what I like about living in Texas. You get things done. That's what you do. And I think most Texas people who have lived here for a long time have that attitude. And I think the newcomers, you know, there's lots of people from New York and California who are moving to Texas. And they quickly learned that Texans, by and large, you know, were Texas friendly. They call it that for a reason. You never meet a stranger. Everybody's a neighbor. And if somebody needs help, well, you help them. That's what you do. It's no big deal. You know, we live the golden rule here. And the golden rule, if you don't know it, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When your neighbor needs help, you help your neighbor. If your neighbor it runs out of water, I gave away a case of water for somebody who needed it. You give it. You know, you have it. They need it. You know, you can deal with it. Give them what you can. And that's the kind of thing that you do here. Or at least I am grateful to live here in Texas. Now, what I thought about doing on this video is talking about some other things, but I think I'm going to leave that for another day. And I'm just going to say that I'm grateful. I am grateful. And to find beauty where none is thought to exist. And I think that is a good thing to do in life. Is the glass half empty, or is the glass half full? Or technically speaking, is it all the way full? I mean, it's half full of water and half full of air. It's full. You have a full glass. I hope you and your family are doing well. I hope, well, when you see me again, I'll be painting or doing something else. I do have something I want to talk about trolls. So I think the video after this one is going to be, I'm going to show you a way. When I talked in an earlier video about trolls, and I talked, you know, how do you deal with them psychologically? And I think I want to follow that up with YouTube gives you some tools that you can do to manage troll behavior. And I just want to show you, you know, complete that circle back.